there's 6 different meetings that I host at my company as a business owner, like our weekly team meeting, a weekly leadership team meeting, and a handful of other things. The single most important meeting that I host is our quarterly strategic planning meeting. It's at this quarterly strategic planning meeting that we decide what the most important thing is in the company right now. It's the point at which we examine the biggest threats to the company, and we leave those 2 days together crystal clear on exactly the next step we need to take as a company. This is the one thing that I see our clients not doing. It's the commonality amongst all the clients we have. That's from John, who's starting a brand new company, $0, 0 ideas, 0 email list, all the way through other clients of ours that do $20+ million a year in revenue. None of them have a healthy strategic planning meeting rhythm, meaning very rarely do they step back and examine like, all right, what's our mission? And what's the next most important step we need to take to get there? And all of our actions as a company should flow through that. Instead, we get caught in the weeds of just doing a bunch of stuff that seems about right, but the sum of the parts rarely equal the whole. So this strategic planning meeting is the single most important thing that we do at Growth Tools. In fact, last week we just did ours. We did it offsite. There were all 5 of us in the leadership team were together, or in the early days of the company, there were just 5 people total on the team, including contractors. So we'd all get together and plan. And over the years, we've developed a really good system for doing that. And just Monday, I showed our whole team exactly how we do strategic planning. I walk them through the 3 big rocks, the 3 big things that we try to accomplish, the goal of it, and the 3 big deliverables we want to leave strategic planning with so that we can just lead the company well and know what we need to be doing. So today, we were supposed to be hosting a live shop talk, but my internet crapped out in the neighborhood. I'm actually recording this from my phone right now. So we canceled live shop talk today, and I want to share with you instead a private training that I did for the Growth Tools team on Monday at our all hands team meeting, and just walk you through the process. And you take this, model it, and use it for your own company. If it's just you, do this with 2 friends. If it's you and 3 contractors, get them together and do this. This is the single most important hinge. I was actually trying to combine an analogy. A friend used to say small hinges that swing big doors. This is one of the best hinges. One of the most effective hinges is having every quarter stopping for a day or 2 and examining the business and deciding what's the most important thing in the business right now. So I'm going to walk you through my methodology for that, the agenda for that, and the things that you want to leave the meeting with so that you know you're doing the right thing. If you feel like you're caught in the weeds, lost in the clutter of the business, do this and you will not feel like that at the end. In fact, this is the first thing we do for all new clients that hire us. We do the strategic planning for them and then with them so they can learn to do this for themselves. So without further ado, I'm going to press play on this recording. I hope you enjoy. So I'm going to walk you through the Growth Tools Strategic Planning Playbook. That playbook started existing as of about 2 hours ago when I started making the slides for this. I guess technically it's existed for many years. I should have gone back and I just didn't even think of this till now, but used to our team retreats, we'd have them actually every quarter, but there were like 5 people on the team and they would be this. I didn't know this is what they were called at the time. But now this is what the leadership team does once a quarter. We get together ideally in person. And the goal of that meeting is to recalibrate the company for the next best step towards the mission. So what we do, so imagine like we got our goal clearly defined. What we don't want to do is just be like off in la la land somewhere doing something that's not quite right. We want to every 90 days, put our head down for 90-day sprints, work, pick our head back up and realize like, all right, are we on the right track? Great. Put the head down and work, set the goal of what it needs to be on 90-day increments and work towards it. So every 90 days, get together as a team and decide like, all right, what did we say we were going to do? What did we do? And let's look at the mission out 2 years and 7 months from now and decide what do we need to do over the next 3 to 6 months to make sure we're in a really good position to be there. So an example of that would be the quarter or the rally crowd that we set in January was to get the keep rate to 92%. And you'll see the results of that here in a second that are actually really good. Despite our sales goal being low and missing it several times, we're actually ahead of pace where we need to be because we picked the right number 1 thing, which was get the keep rate right. And that alone, the keep rate being above what it needs to be, we hit it 3 weeks early. And it set us to be actually in better position than if we were to have the keep rate where it used to be, but sales were to be gangbusters. It's really interesting when you break down the numbers of that. So one of the first things I'm just going to walk you through the basics of this. We won't go like super in the weeds, but just so you have a high level view of how we do this, because maybe think of this, the flywheel of the company is that we solve our own problems. We then turn them into playbooks to give them our clients. As a result of that, their business grows and they tell their friends and we're able to get more customers and increase our price. That's just how the business works. We keep solving our own problems. As a result, our clients' businesses grow and we grow. So this process I'm going to walk you through is one of the core things we actually do for clients. So every 90 days for clients, we stop, we review their progress over the previous 90 days, we realign their plan, and then ship them off again. Now, what we practically do might look totally different. And a thing we want to do as a coaching team is to look at the playbook I'm going to walk you through, at least the broad strokes of it, and say, are there things from how we just naturally do things that we should be doing for our clients, or in certain settings, teaching our clients? Because we function as a leadership team for our clients in a lot of ways, for people at a certain level. Working with people at a higher level, like somebody like the one day your clients that we got a few weeks ago, Lorianne and Britt, they have a $4 or $5 million company. And the main thing they need to do is actually just build a leadership team that does this and runs the different departments of the company. That's their next step. We don't need to be their leadership team long-term. They need to have their own. So walk through what, or as I'm walking through what we did last week and just what we do typically every 90 days, be thinking like, how could we apply this to our clients? Is this as good, or is what we're doing now as good as this? If not, how can we change what we're doing so that at least adopts our own best practices? Because that's the fundamental nature of how the company works. We solve our own problems. We give the best solutions to clients. We call those playbooks. They then implement them and their business grows. And as a result, they tell their friends, refer people to us, and we're able to increase our price and get more clients and get to our 1,000 goal. If we don't do that, like, it doesn't work. So the first thing we do, about the only thing we do in prep for these meetings, and this is slight oversimplifying, but you'll get the basic gist. We just read back over our operating system document. Everybody has this. We spent like 3 months last year going over this as a whole team and walking through each page of it and talking about it. And we probably need to do a review every now and then. But this is our operating system. It has the 6 key questions of the company on it. What is growth tools? What's our mission? What are our goals? What is our offer? What is our avatar? And what's our plan to get there? And this is kind of pulled from several different leadership methodologies. And we've kind of distilled this down into like a 10-page document that's extremely clarifying for us. So before we go into the meeting, we just remind ourselves, because it's so easy to get lost in the weeds of funnels and coaching, and this client had this problem and this refund and this guarantee idea and all that weedsy stuff, that if you don't zoom out for a minute and be like, literally, what are we doing here? Then you have all these conversations that honestly don't really matter all that much, or you keep playing whack-a-mole over and over and over again. So the first thing we do before we prep, the primary item to prep, is just remember what we do and why we do it, what we've already agreed to as a team. That's the operating system document. Maybe Bethany can throw that in chat for us, just so anybody that wants to. I would encourage you, block out 15 minutes this week and just skim back through that again. This is not a document we made to put on a wall somewhere. It is actually the most core thing that exists in the company, is that it is the bedrock of the thing, is that document. So we go into it with the goal, let me go back here. Yeah, to recalibrate the company for the next best step towards the mission. And there are 3 deliverables that actually do that. So literally on a whiteboard, I wrote goal, recalibrate GT to next best step to mission. And then below that, I had 3 bullet points that at the end of the 2 days we had crossed off. And they were: set the rally cry priorities, set the 3 big rocks for quarter 3, and then agree to department goals for quarter 3. By doing those 3 things, we've recalibrated the company to the best next step towards the mission. So let me walk you through what each of these 3 things are. And I maybe stop here and stop at the end of each one. If anybody has questions or any leadership team member has a clarification or something that's interesting to add, feel free to. So does this make sense so far? Any questions or clarification or anything to add? Okay. All right. Deliverables. Number 1, set the rally cry and priorities. The rally cry answers the question, what's most important in the company right now? Yeah. So this comes from a Patrick Lencioni book, and he was consulting a company who just had this major financial crisis. If they didn't hit some sales target within a very short period of time, the company goes bankrupt, fires everybody, and is done. And they just had their backs against the wall, literally their backs against the wall. And you either fight out of it or you're dead. Those are your 2 options. And every time, he mentions this in the book, every time the company clearly understands that their back is actually against the wall and puts a plan in place and applies an urgency to executing the plan, they get out of it every single time without exception. So he's like, why don't companies just do this all the time? Like, why don't you just always have this like back against the wall mentality, but maybe not with this unhealthy form of urgency, but with a just clarifying question, which is, what is most important right now? What is the singular most important? Everything else stayed about the same, but over the next 6 to 9 months, one thing went way forward that would increase our pace towards mission. What would that be? And that's our answer to the what's most important question right now. So for example, let's add a visual to this. we are like, we know somewhere in the ether 2.5 years from now, we need to be at 1,000 clients and key metrics. Right now we're at 100. We know we just hit some keep number. There's some things that feel good. There's some things that don't feel good, but like literally what do we need to do as a company today? Well, Stacy's going to make some playbooks and Ben's going to write some emails and Will's going to have a sales call and Bruno's going to design a thing and Bethany's going to work on some benefit deal. Cool. But like what actually matters right now? Like what's like the thing that's actually going to move the needle? We call that the rally cry. And that's the thing that typically works on like 3 to 9 month time horizons. It's the next big step towards the mission. So we got this big gap right here between where we're at and where we're going. We can't go all the way there in 3 months or 9 months or something, but we can make a big step that sets us up to make it almost impossible to fail at actually hitting the mission. And that's what we're going to set with a rally cry. So the way we go about doing this, we actually did a little bit different this time, although the core of how we do it every time is about the same. We do an evaluation of the full company. The last few quarters have been a SWOT analysis. So y'all have got a Google sheet or Google form. You fill it out with threats, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and there's variations of those questions. We'll then take all those and analyze them and look at them and literally go over every single answer on slides for like 3 hours. It's actually a little bit tedious to do as a group. So this time we did another method, just trying something different now because we've done that a few quarters in a row. And everybody wrote down on a piece of paper, or actually we actually took note cards and with a magic marker or a Sharpie wrote down the answer to what are 3 things we need to do or accomplish as a company before the end of the year, which is an interesting question. Actually, we gave it out the day ahead of time and everybody kind of sat on it and came in with a handful of answers. I think we let everybody write down 10 answers. And then when we got there, we all spent the first couple hours just reviewing over all the highlights of last quarter and this year to date. To kind of prime us, we kind of skimmed back over the operating system document. We looked at our big rocks and our rally cry to date and kind of just reviewed a little bit to kind of get the juices flowing. And then we took 15 or 20 minutes and wrote down another handful of things that would answer the question, what are the 3 things we need to do or accomplish before the end of the year? So each of us had like 15 or 20 things we could do or accomplish by the end of the year. And then you're in your number 2 and your number 3 thing. And not in your department. It didn't have to be product or marketing or sales if you're in those areas. Just like literally as a company right now, what are the 3 most important things that we do and or accomplish by the end of the year, which is a really actually challenging exercise to whittle it down to that and then prioritize those. So then what we did, you can see this, I took a picture of Jeanette and Ben doing this. We kind of put a number 1, number 2, and number 3 swim lane. And we just all went up one at a time with our number 3 and put it up on the whiteboard, taped it on the whiteboard and explained why we picked that thing. And then filled the number 3 up, and there were 5 because there were 5 of us. And then went to number 2 and filled it up and went down the swim lane and filled it up to number 1 and went all the way down and explained each one. That takes, a little bit of time. But by the end of it, a really clear picture of what everybody was thinking and a really good view of the company. We got like all these things and stuff here. So once you get all those listed out, the next thing we did was just group them by type. Like, all right, what are the nature of the things that we've listed there? And there were like, I don't know, 12 marketing and sales related items. There was 2 product related items, which is interesting because like the last 3 quarters, it's been the opposite of that. There's been like tons of product stuff and a handful of marketing things. And there were a handful of like people items, like planning, strategic key things of different natures. So then we just debate over them for a couple hours. It was obvious. We spent about 30 minutes talking about, is it get or keep? Is it product or marketing sales? And we all were fairly unanimous on consistently hitting our get number. Now that we've at 92%, we need to sustain that. We can't just be a one-hit wonder, but consistently hitting our get number becomes the number 1 most important thing, or something in there becomes the next rally cry. And we'll actually share the rally cry and priorities in departmental meetings this week, and we'll go over them next week as a full team. So every department head, make sure y'all talk about it with your team, everything we kind of went away with. This is last quarter's though. Actually, we set these in January. We came out with the number 1 most important thing of the company. This is the rally cry of the company. The most important thing, despite department. If you just move one thing forward drastically and everything else stays the same, what is it? It is getting the keep number to 92%, meaning every month we keep 92% of our clients. And we want to incrementally increase that over time. But if we get that, then we'll be in a really good spot. And then we listed out 5 priorities under it. Think of them as projects, whereby doing it, hitting the 92% number becomes almost impossible to fail at. So we ended day 1 with the 1 thing and the 5, I think, priorities, which is those all until the rally cry, clear and committed on paper. That's part number 1. What is the most important thing in the company right now? It is your 1 thing, the rally cry, and the priorities that support it. So deliverable number 1 is that. I'm going to pause there. Anything to add to that? Jeanette, Ben, Will, Bethany, or any clarifying question?
I just thought it was interesting to sort the things into categories because
Mm.
one of the things that's been coming up a lot is like have trust your gut instinct a little bit more than you otherwise would, and seeing where things naturally sort themselves into is good.
Yeah. It was a bit shocking that we were all pretty much on the same page with our one things. Like the vast majority of things were like in a little bullseye over here with, just
Mm-hmm.
consistently hit our get number every month. Um, so that's cool. Cool. All right. So number one most important thing, make sure the most important thing is clear to everybody. Done. Second thing, this is the second day. It takes a full day typically to do the rally cry, and we're kind of a new leadership team. We've had some moving seats over the past few quarters. So hope ideally is we have good consistent rhythm with the five of us. So that'll go quicker. Second thing is making sure your three big rocks get in place. There are three main numbers. The three biggest numbers in the company are the number of clients we get every month, the number of clients we keep every month, and profit. Those are the three big rocks. Number of clients we get, number of clients we keep, and actually making money. The sum of those need to be you make a profit, otherwise you die. So this sheet, I'll go over this a little more detail in a minute, but this sheet shows that on paper. Actually, it shows the first two numbers, the get and keep number, because those equal our mission of 1,000 clients. Profit, you can think is the fuel that you need for the car to keep going. If you can get and keep all day long, but you aren't making profit, the car stops and the whole trip's over. So you got to have those three things working in unison to actually get to the mission of 1,000 clients hitting the key metrics. So you can see on paper here, you can go back to the Q2 goal sheet and see where these three things were committed on paper. Our goal in quarter two is 69 new clients total. Our keep percentage is 92%. We do the keep number percentage, by the way, on a rolling 28-day period. So every month or every week when we report that number, it is indicative of the previous 28 days. And the profit margin for this quarter was 18% was the profit margin goal. So we spent the day talking about those. Now, the interesting thing about this is we spent a good bit of day one talking about get, since that was the number one most important thing. So we strategized on that a good bit, talked about the holes. Why are we inconsistent? What are things we could do? What are some different ideas we have, or things we just accidentally stopped doing? That was a big one we found. Like, hey, we did a couple of things that used to work and we kind of stopped doing them. Let's maybe do those again. Had a really good conversation around that. I broke this out by the month and by the channel. Probably should have taken a screenshot of that, but we don't just set a new client goal and pick it out of the top of our head. We're like, all right, what are the channels that make up the places that we would get clients from? And let's talk about each channel. I think there's 5 or 6 different primary channels we'll get people from. So let's talk about owned audience. Let's talk about Facebook. Let's talk about SDR. Let's talk about partnerships and break down what did we do in the previous 90 days? What's reasonable to do in the next 90 days? And let's break that down by the month. Like, what's that going to look like in the month of July and August and September? And excruciating detail, actually. We'll do each one of these channels. What did they do and what are they capable of doing? What are a few minor tweaks you can make to make these work even better? And from that comes the number of new clients we're going to get in quarter three. Quarter two, that number was 69. We do the same thing in key percentage. We walk through and get, you have entry points. You have places people come from. For keeping people, you have exit points, places people leave. So we want to monitor the entry points and have goals around those, and monitor the exit points and have goals around those, and try to get those as high and as low relatively as we can, so that we get as close to 100% on our keep rate and infinity on our get number as we can, or whatever the coaching and the coaching capacity is at the time. So out of that day two comes the first most important thing is our get number, our keep number, and our profit margin. Here's a little picture I took. We just have the TV up with some vision stuff on there and some going through some different screenshots of things. We have the little whiteboard to the left going through the different ideas and just debated it out. Chef Will cooked us some good meals as we're going through, which was awesome. We usually go to a restaurant and Will is an amazing chef, and the place we had an awesome like chef grade stove. So Will crushed some meals. So out of the first part of day two, we had our rally cross set the previous day. The big rock set our get number, our keep number, our profit number. And the third thing was agreeing to the in the weed stuff. Like, all right, what does that mean for product in quarter three specifically? So this is where you get down to the actual weeds of the goal sheet. You can just go to quarter two goal sheet, or you can actually go over and see quarter three stuff. We can just input it all there and see like, all right, for Jeanette and or the product company, the product department, the goal is X, and the most important projects are these things. So when we leave that day, we've had our rally cross set, our get number, keep number, and profit number set, and each department has very clear direction on what to do. Like, what are the most important things I need to do over the next couple of months to make hitting these big rocks, achieving these big rocks, and hitting this rally crap possible. So it bleeds all the way down to the product level or the departmental level. And then over the next week or so, each department head will get with each one of y'all, and y'all work together to set your own goals and how you can support the departmental goals, which support the big rocks, which support the rally cry, which supports the mission. So just think of a plumb line between the mission that's kind of hard to fully imagine 2 years and 7 months from now and what you do this week. All of that is just in that goal sheet. If you flip over to the Q3 draft goal sheet, you can see from the top of the sheet is the mission, the rally cry, the big rocks, and then everybody's actual stuff. You click over one tab of the weekly goal, that stuff should all just have a straight line from the mission of the company all the way down to what you do. That's the goal of leaving those days. We did kind of a fun exercise. We've never done this before. It kind of was a spur of the moment thing. There was a fire pit right outside the house. And the last 19 months now, the company's been a bit odd. It's probably been one of the, by far the biggest internal growth months in company history. And it's not even close. It's also been one of the harder from like consistently hitting numbers perspective in company history. And I have found myself over the last few months, just kind of maybe coming back to some things that have happened in the past, like going through 3 different director of marketings before we found our real one and Ben. Just stuff like that can kind of stick in your craw a little bit. And you kind of complain about it in a way you don't really need to, or it doesn't even feel good to you at the time. So I said, we should do a burn party. Let's get out the board and let's write everything we can think of that we've complained about, been annoyed about, been like maybe discouraged by. We wrote them down on note cards. We said them out loud and we threw them in the fire and committed to never talk about them again. And that was like absolutely, it was like one of the most cathartic things I've ever done. It was fantastic. So that was really good to leave with sight set on the future, with any failures of mine in the past or disappointments of the past just behind us, and looking forward. So this will be the last thing I share. We keep this sheet. You can find this in the operating system document. I think it's the answer to question number 3, which is what is our goal as a company? You can see the 1,000 numbers at the bottom. The bottom right-hand corner is 1,000. This is a very simple formula. You take the number of people you get every month times the keep rate, and that equals the number of active clients you have. So we know we need to be at by the end of December 2024, we need to be at 1,000. So the bottom right cell has to equal 1,000. And we know we need to be on a decent pace to hit that all throughout. So when we first started using this, I think it was October of last year, if I get my memory serves me right, we needed to be at 97 active clients by the end of June. If we were at 97 active clients, that's the upper right cell that's highlighted in pink there. If we're at 97 active clients by the end of June, we'd be on pace to hit our 1,000 goal. And we need some exponential improvement throughout. And that's all displayed in a graph you can see on the spreadsheet. But the awesome thing was we set that goal, or that target, I guess, like 7-8 months ago. And despite challenges along the way, we're actually ahead of that. As of this morning, we're at 102 active clients. We need to be at 97 active clients. I want to give a shout out to coaching team and Jeanette. Really, everybody pulls on this, but y'all do the in the weeds work on this of getting the keep rate. We had a goal this month of an 85% keep rate. You can see in the sheet there is at 85%. We're at 92% right now, and ahead of our pace by 5 active clients to be on pace to be at 200 active clients by the end of the year, 199 on the sheet. So all that to say, despite all the challenges of the last 6-7 months of this year so far, we're ahead of pace towards our mission by 5 clients. And that's awesome. So good job to everybody. I want to walk you through kind of the broad strokes of what we do in those meetings so you have an idea. And this is something we should be doing for our clients. But at the beginning of every quarter, they should know their rally cry and priorities. They should know their big rocks, and they should have very clear direction of what happens each of their company. You need to scale this up and down based on the size of the company, but they should clearly know what happens next, as we should know clearly what happens next. And if they do, it's easy to be excited today and go do work because you're freshly rejuvenated on vision. You're freshly rejuvenated on exactly what you need to do. And that's the fun stuff. So thank you to leadership team for coming every quarter and doing this in person. It's really fun. If you enjoyed this process, one last thing before you leave, if you want me and my team to look at your business and give you one last thing before you leave, what we do as a company is coach people how to grow their businesses. That's literally what we do. We spend all day, One last note before you leave, we are a coaching company. We make it almost impossible for you to fail at growing your business. If you'd love to talk with us, to run the strategic planning process for you, to put together a marketing plan for you, make your offer, your avatar, your marketing plan, make it almost impossible for you to fail at hitting your 2022 goal, I'd love to talk with you. Just text coach to 615-903-8108. And we got several coaches and team members standing by at that line that will talk to you and set up a time for us to chat and see if it's a good fit to work together. So text coach to 615-903-8108.